Okay, welcome to Into the Channel podcast, primarily about women's football. Before we hit the pitch, if you enjoy the show or love women's football as much as your boys do, come kick it with us already. Subscribe, follow YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to watch or listen. Leave us a review over your favorite podcast app. Links to all of our socials in the show notes of this episode. I am your host, Dino Grant, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Grant Angle. What is up, man?
Feeling fantastic, buddy. The Champions League is back. It's been a long month without any Champions League matches, so I'm glad it's returning. And I think we have another amazing slate. I probably say this every week, but that's because we like the Champions League. That's why the show's about the Champions League. So I'm excited for Matchday 5.
I think that's fair, man. I think I was talking to you about this a little bit pre-show. You know, like 7 of the 8 teams into the quarterfinals already. I was like, has the drama kind of gone from it? But then when you look a little deeper, there's a lot of this in this match day that could really switch things around. One massive match that we'll get to here soon, but real stakes. I was kind of pleasantly surprised. The more I looked, I was like, okay, there's some real shit here. With that said, Mr. Grant Angle, where do you want to get started?
Let's get started with what I think is the match of the week in Group A, and it just so happens that we're going to go in alphabetical order by groups.
Love that.
The timing worked out on the match days. Wednesday morning over here in the United States of America, Wolfsburg versus Roma.
Love it. Let's start here. This is the matchup of the week. Quick programming reminder. We're going to break this up into a two-parter. We're going to hit all the Wednesday matches. We're going to hit all the Thursday matches. So I love that we're starting with Wednesday. We're starting, or is this chronological and alphabetical? The rare double for the IDC?
It's a dream come true for your boy. It's my favorite thing that we've ever done.
Let's go. All right. Before we dive in, boy's going to dive into this ice cold, frosty refresher.
We've been, our timing on these beers has been a little inconsistent lately, which I think is probably appropriate as we're going to talk about Wolfsburg here.
Yeah, I think that's right on point. But first, cheers to you. Cheers to the Champions League.
Obviously, cheers to you as well, my good man.
Little sippy sip, and then we're off. Okay, Wolfsburg. I'm not sure what to make of this Wolfsburg team. So this weekend, a 1-0 away loss to Leverkusen, who's a real team. Peter Weiss was on with us, had them in his top 4. They're firmly in the top 4. I think they're tied for the top spot with Bayern. Wolfsburg's back 3, Marina Hegering, Yanina Minga, Catherine Henrich, Swiss cheese on the day. Leverkusen was getting most of what they wanted. 12 shots, 5 on target, the deciding goal. Wolfsburg now in danger of falling into 4th place halfway through the Frauen-Bundesliga season. Prior to this one, though, 7 wins in a row, 25 goals for, 2 against for Wolfsburg. Then they get the 12 days off, and then they lose to Leverkusen. I'm not sure if it's rest. I'm not sure if it's rust. I'm not sure what to make of it. But then you look a little closer at Wolfsburg and some of these results. This season, they've played Eintracht Frankfurt, Roma, Bayern Munich, Lyon, and Leverkusen. In those 5 matches, 1 win, 4 losses. So tough to know what to make of this Wolfsburg side. It's a lot of up and down. The data's a little noisy. I'll say that.
That's a good way to put it. I mean, I think I'm looking at him in a similar vein to you in the sense that we know they have elite individual talent on the field pretty much at all times, all 90 of any match that they're going to play in. But you inject Lineth Bierenstein, you lose Lena Oberdorf. First, she transfers to Bayern Munich, and then obviously we're still hoping that Lena is getting a swift and full recovery after her ACL injury. Yep. But you have that little bit of shakeup. But I think whatever is happening is that, this team is going to have those runs where they win a lot of games and they win by goals and the goal differential looks great and they look unstoppable at times. And then I think they're just going to have those hiccups. And probably what that is if you look at the tiering of the best teams in the world, on the top tier, you obviously have Barcelona and the Orlando Pride.
Yep. On
the second tier of the best teams in the world, I would say you probably have Chelsea, Lyon, and a fully fit Washington Spirit. Now, I don't know if Wolfsburg is on that 3rd tier or on that 4th tier, but they're probably on one of those 2 tiers hovering around Manchester City, Arsenal, Bayern Munich. I think you could probably put Roma in that mix. Please, people in the chat, let me know. Oh, yeah, SK Braun, obviously. Let me know if I'm forgetting any other elite teams. BK Häcken, perhaps, if we want to stick in the Nordics. But you're just going to get some of this where they look unstoppable at times, and then other times you're going to be like, what is going on out there? But I think the dangerous part for their fans is they don't know when it's going to come. And the dangerous part for opponents is you don't know when it's going to come.
100%. Yeah. And I think, speaking of not knowing when it's going to come, I think this Roma side and their attack, our guy Peter Weiss was on here talking about that 3-4-3 for Wolfsburg. And I think we had somebody pop into the comments and maybe push back a little bit on that. I think that could be devastating for them in this one because they struggled with that Leverkusen attack. I think Roma's going to be a little trickier to deal with. Definitely less familiarity. I'll say they're vulnerable. Like I think they're probably one of the most vulnerable top-ish tier teams in the tournament. Like the most gettable. Wow. Like when you look at like a Chelsea side or Lyon or even a Manchester City, it doesn't feel like you're going to see that stumble. We've already seen Wolfsburg stumble a couple times here in this group stage. Zooming into Roma though, they did beat Wolfsburg 1-0 in the opener off a Giuliano penalty in the 14th minute. This past weekend, 2-1 win over FC Como. Como scored first in that one, and it went to halftime 1-0 before Lucia De Guglielmo scores, and Valentina Giacinti follows that up with just a disgusting assist from Manuela Giuliano. Unbelievable. Go watch that if you haven't seen it. But then you look at Roma's record, 11 wins, 4 draws, 3 losses in all competitions. You can zoom into their last 6 in Serie A Femminile, 5 wins and 1 draw, so just 1 point behind second place Fiorentina. But I think the matchup to watch here is going to be Roma's attack against Wolfsburg's back line.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. I think when you get elite football played by 2 great clubs, I think that's probably what it's going to come down to on either side of the field is can your defenders get in the way of the talented attackers? Can you try to break up those great passes, get in there and get blocked shots? Can you stop Endemann from playing Alexandra Pop into the middle, Jones Dotier into the middle, on with the keeper, things like that? I'm obviously not ready to write Wolfsburg off yet. Anybody who's been rocking with us the past couple of months, I did predict 2 convincing wins over Galatasaray. Check. And then I predicted getting the victory over Roma here. Now that's going to have to be a little convincing, at least 2-0 or 3-1. Yeah. They want to win by 2 goals. And so let's get into, everybody loves explaining tiebreakers. I think that's what everybody's favorite part of any podcast is. But as quickly and concisely as I think I can explain it, the first tiebreaker, when 2 teams are level on points, are points in head-to-head matches among the tied teams. So Wolfsburg has to get this win over Roma to make sure that they're tied 3-3 there on points against each other. The next is goal difference in head-to-head matches among those tied teams. So if you're Wolfsburg and you can win 2-0 and you can pull ahead of Roma on that head-to-head goal differential, you'll be feeling okay. The extra tricky part here is you go play Lyon if you're Wolfsburg in the final match day. You're probably drawing dead in that match. It's going to be very tough to beat Lyon. Now, obviously, on the flip side, Roma goes and plays Galatasaray. So if you just take care of business, if you win this one by 2 goals, you should be in good shape to progress.
Yeah, and that's huge because Roma is the type of team, A, that I think could erase a lead or at least cut a 2-0 lead in half, and B, kind of lock things down, muck it up, get physical. I could definitely see this one ending in like a really gritty draw maybe, which would essentially almost put Roma through. Yep. But yeah, great call on the schedules and looking ahead to match day 6 because those final group stage matchups absolutely matter. And yeah, I think if I had to make a prediction, I think Roma gets a result that they like here.
Okay, they go to Germany and get it done. That's the prediction?
Not sure they get the win, but I think they get the draw.
Okay, I like it.
The other Group A matchup, both of these, by the way, going down 12:45 p.m. Eastern, 9:45 a.m. Pacific for my guy. Galatasaray hosting Lyon. Not sure there's a ton to talk about in this one. We're going to see what the Lyon lineup looks like. With just 1 more point or a Wolfsburg draw or loss, Lyon basically takes the group.
Yeah, and I think that was pretty much expected going into this. We expect them to make a deep run. I'm with you. I think this is a lineup watch kind of match to see who gets some playing time, who's going to get the majority of this match, and who might come in and get 15, 20 minutes of some cardio out there. I think it's worth noting that between the UEFA Women's Champions League and the Premier League in France, which is used to formerly Division 1 Féminine, formerly Division 1 Arkema, now the Premier League, Lyon has only dropped points once this season. And that was a 0-0 draw versus Paris FC in October. That match was a banger. And Lyon, across the Champions League and the Prem, have a plus 54 goal differential. I did that math looking at it on my own, courtesy of our pals of FB Ref. So if I'm off by 1 or 2, my bad. But I'd say they've looked pretty convincing so far this season.
I would say so. And I think to amend one of my predictions for this one, I think we're still waiting for Tabitha Chawinga to really like kind of break through. I know she's scored, but thinking back to last season when she's at PSG, just wrecking everything
Yep.
and giving this Lyon side headaches for sure. We haven't quite seen that yet for Lyon. And I can imagine maybe some reshuffling lineup wise and maybe looking to get a player like Chawinga going.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's a good idea. It's kind of one of those things where you look to get one of your star players going before you ramp up into like the really critical matches. So if you can get her going as you enter the knockout stages and have her feeling really, really good, and then you have obviously Dumornay and Diani on the other sides. Now we're really, we're already talking about a contender to win, but you want to try to sharpen that as much as possible going into the knockout stage.
Yeah, 100%. Any other final Group A thoughts before Matchday 5 kicks off?
Galatasaray, this is your first foray into the UEFA Women's Champions League. You've had some tough results, but I think you've comported yourself well. We look forward to seeing you back in this tournament many, many times. Obviously, we get a couple more matches. This will be Galatasaray's final home match of the UEFA Women's Champions League, so hopefully their fans show up and show out. And you know what? We'll always have that kid in the stands who was smoking a cigarette. So hopefully that young man's in attendance. But let me just say, look, I'm not some kind of Puritan, but it's not good for you, kid. So you're starting way too early. I get it. We've all done it, but I mean, your lungs will thank you later if maybe you chill out a little bit.
All right, let's shift gears. Group B, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific. Let's get started with Chelsea FC Twente. What do we need to be looking out for these two teams?
So Chelsea beat Twente 3-1 on match day 2, as some people might recall. I think the big flashbulb memory from that one is Micah Hamano's just laser beam of a strike from like 30 plus yards out. It was not a great moment for Welsh keeper Olivia Clark for Twente. You don't like to get beaten from there. You could tell she put her head in her hands after. It was also just a really great strike by Hamano. I think Clark was probably too far off her line, but still, great hit by Hamano. I think I'm going to remember that one moving forward. And Hamano has certainly proven she's dangerous from any area out there, so she's going to be firing.
Oh, yeah.
I think in this one, I expect Twente to play really hard. I think this is largely more of a lineup watch game. I want to see who Chelsea put out there. I believe Twente is going to play hard, but they are 5 points back from a Champions League qualifying spot in Eredivisie round right now. And so there's a part of me that kind of wonders, if you are in the management of that club, do you say, hey, maybe we peel back on who we're putting out there on the field and we focus fully on the league so we can at least have a look at getting back in this spot next year?
I think a case can be made for that. I mean, you take the flip side of that and it's like, well, let's try to stay as sharp as possible. Sure. A match against Chelsea, and us really kind of pushing ourselves, might pay some dividends there. The other point is that Twente has basically been bounced from the quarters. So, we already know it's Chelsea going through. Right. It's Real Madrid going through from this group. Taking a second to look at Chelsea, 9 wins from 9 matches in the WSL, 5-point lead over City at the moment, 9 points out of third place Arsenal. I think the thing that's interesting here, Sonia Bonpastor, I think wants to kind of if possible, try to clinch that WSL championship early because Chelsea won't be facing the same league competition that a Barcelona would be or a Lyon would be. I think both of those teams are going to cruise in their domestic leagues. But if Chelsea can kind of run away with the WSL a little bit, take some of the pressure off, even if it's just 1 or 2, maybe 3 matches at the very end of the season, those could really compound in a big way, especially when you think about the injuries from last year. The main officials, Sam Kerr, Millie Bright, Myra Ramirez from the first, who dominated the first Barcelona matchup and then has a knock and can't play in the second one. Barcelona advances. The rest is history. Yeah. I think that's some recent trauma for Chelsea, and I think they really want to do what they can. And let's not slip up in the WSL. Let's make sure that we've got a lead and we can sort of maneuver a little bit with lineups, try to keep everybody relatively fresh.
Yeah, well, I think you're probably spot on, and they already have a good look at it. So, they've already notched a win over Arsenal. They notched a win over Manchester City. So they're in the driver's seat for it. I have been known to yell at pundits not to their face, because I don't meet any of these people, but like in my time, like listening to podcasts and then watching things on television, I do get a little annoyed when you're 25% of the way through a season and somebody goes, well, the title is theirs to lose, surely, right? It's like, well, probably not if you have more than 3/4 or about 3/4 of the season yet to play. I think I might be a little, I could be guided into saying that the title is pretty much Chelsea's to lose. Like 5 points ahead of City with already a fairly convincing, obviously minus Lauren Hemp, but a fairly convincing win over City already in their back pocket. I think you're right. I think Bon Pastor has the team running really great. I think this little strategy of, hey, I'm going to play Macario the last 45 minutes of every match and nobody's able to guard her or physically move her off any spot she ever wants to occupy. I think that's a nice strategy by Sonia Bonpastor. It seems to be working very well.
Totally agree with that. Yeah. I think in my head, Kat Macario was somewhere listening to our USA number 10 conversation and just laughing her ass off.
Yeah.
just like, okay, yeah. This is a high comedy. She was awesome today against Brighton. Brighton's a tough team. Yeah. They came into Chelsea's house, really pushed them, had real chances, multiple points throughout the match. This one ended 4-2 Chelsea. The scoreline in this one could have had like 10 different outcomes. Could have been 4-4, could have been 5-4, could have been 3-1. For a match that was played in pretty shitty conditions, like you could see the corner flag like getting whipped in every direction, the rain coming in sideways. What I'm going to take away, though, is kind of how scrappy Chelsea was.
Yeah.
You look at those first couple goals, new skin, muscles went in to help Chelsea break through. Aggie Beaver-Jones, ABJ on the second one. Good old-fashioned, let's get some pressure on the keeper, kind of steal something there. So, when the beautiful Chelsea offense is not running, the girl Wrighton on the left and Canary on the right, and, just all the angles and the sharp cuts and all that isn't doing it. Chelsea, it's cool to know that Chelsea can still kind of grit out a game, score goals in that way. And then when you look at the 4-2 scoreline, those two kind of scrappy early-ish goals end up being the difference in this one.
Yeah, I mean, that's well said. And you even have the combination with them where you have the beautiful Chelsea offense shows up for a second when the aforementioned Kat Macario throws a pass that looks like it was dropped in by Peyton Manning to Lucy Bronze. And then the ugly starts happening where it just kind of like ping-pongs off Bronze from the keeper, but then there's Canaroo to tap it in for the goal. It's like, okay, so you got a little mix of the beautiful offense and then the scrappiness. They just look nearly impossible to beat in a lot of situations. They're so deep. They're so well managed. I mean, they've been well managed, obviously, for many years now. But you have a new voice in there, and I don't know, man. They look like stronger and stronger contenders every passing week. And like, to your point, they can win ugly, too.
Yeah, I think I'm this close to saying that Chelsea's my pick to take the whole tournament because I think that they're playing so sharp. And to me, I'm kind of sitting on the sidelines a little bit because I want to see how the WSL season kind of unfurls here. But if they get to like 12, 13, 14, and they're still at like no loss, or they haven't dropped points, or they're kind of like in that neighborhood and can maybe kind of coast a little bit, save a little bit of gas for the knockout stage, I really think that WSL season getting sharpened by that tough competition, couple teams really pushing them, and Chelsea still kind of able to hold them down, that could be the formula for them just being like, no, we're better, we're stronger, we're more mentally tough, we've got a champion coach behind us, we've got the experience, we've got the sour taste from last year. These are all incredibly important components for putting together a deep title run.
Sounds like I realize they didn't make the final, but do we have a 2014 San Antonio Spurs type situation? They lose the year before in heartbreaking fashion to your Miami Heat, who earned it, by the way. Nice shot by Ray Allen. The second greatest shot in the history of the finals. I digress.
That's an absolute absurdity. No, we're not going to digress. I'm just kidding. Let's digress. Get back to primarily about women's football. We'll get back to it.
Yeah. Well, after the show, I'll tell you why Kyrie Irving's shot was better and more important. But at any rate, I think they have that extra layer of motivation, and that could play. And if they win their group, and then Barcelona finishes in second in their group, which we'll talk about in the next episode, how early might we see that matchup?
That would be incredible. And I'm sure they must be feeling those types of feelings about last season. And they proved to themselves that they're at Barcelona's level or were at Barcelona's level. And to kind of go out like that, the Buchanan red card, we'll remember that one, could be a perfect confluence of motivating factors for them, though, this season to kind of actually get it done.
It could be. And if you decide to pick them, I will wish you well. But I say all of that with, you could have all the motivating factors you want. Hey, you could still lose to Barcelona.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, I said I was this close, and there's still time. I want to at least get through the group stage before I go all the way out on these limbs here.
I like it.
The other Group B matchup, Real Madrid heading to Glasgow to take on Celtic. What do we need to know about this one?
Well, one-way traffic mostly in the first matchup on Matchday 2. It ended up being 4-0 Real Madrid, but I still don't think that was totally indicative of the way the match was played. It was 1-0, I think almost to all the way to the 70th minute, maybe right exactly into the 70th minute.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, Celtic really kind of parked the bus. I think they knew what time it was going into that match. They were playing in Spain. I will say to their credit, Saoirse Noonan had forced Misa Rodriguez to make her one save of that match, but Misa Rodriguez only had to make one save that match.
Yep.
Madrid was really kind of moving the ball up and down the field. But I'm gonna do a little bit of a thing here. I think this one could end up being a sneaky good match because I think if the squads are somewhat rotated, so Celtic is trying to make up ground in the Scottish Women's Premier League. They're currently 4th in the table. And Real Madrid, they have 2 matches in hand from Barcelona and Atletico Madrid, who they're sandwiched in between in the Liga F table. If you're Real, you think, okay, I have more matches to play. I got to squeeze some extra matches in here. If you're Celtic, you're like, okay, we got to fight back in our own league. Even if the squads are a little rotated, I think that could produce a relatively up and down, entertaining, pedal to the metal kind of match here.
Yeah, I think I agree with you that this one could get interesting, but I think if it were to get interesting, I think it'd be interesting the other way. In maybe like a 0-0, or maybe Celtic grabs one early and then it's 1-1
Sure.
and it's late and what's going to happen. And I think what's important to note here is Chelsea and Real Madrid can still kind of flip-flop for that 1 seed, 2 seed in Group B. So the door's not closed on Madrid yet. I think if both teams go into Matchday 6 where they'll face each other, Chelsea and Real Madrid, fucking sign me up for that. I really hope there's stakes involved in that one. But let's assume that both Chelsea and Madrid both win. Chelsea would be up by 3 points. Madrid could catch them. It's a 1 goal differential. Chelsea pulled out the first match 3-2.
That's right.
And Matchday 6 heads back to Madrid. So if they're within 3 points, that 1 seed, and we've talked about it time and time again in our Champions League coverage, you do not want to be a 2 seed. If you're a 2 seed, you've got to probably beat 3 1 seeds to win the whole thing. Much, much tougher. If you go in as a 1, you would at least get to play a 2 in the first round, and then who knows what happens from there. But Real Madrid have the look of a team that I think at least offensively can hang with anybody. Now, defensively, I think not that they're shaky, but they're not the most frightening team you're going to have to kind of go up against. So I think the recipe in this one for Celtic is let's keep it low scoring. Let's stay disciplined defensively and try to take this Madrid team into deep waters, kind of see what happens. Because much like Galatasaray, this is Celtic's final Champions League matchup. We're not sure if they'll be back next season. Fingers crossed for them and their return. So I'm also expecting a killer environment in Glasgow.
Oh, yeah. Man, buddy, you might be swaying me on this one. If you're Madrid and you even have the possibility of, hey, we have a match in our building with Chelsea. And we had even talked about after Matchday 1, the importance of Madrid pulling back that second goal. If I remember correctly, Chelsea was kind of in control, and then Madrid, I think they might have pulled one back before halftime, and then again they pulled the second one back late. And we had talked about it, like, hey, that could make a real difference in this. So you might have swayed me where if you're Madrid, I think you play everybody and just say, hey, we notched this win. And if, you obviously pointed out to me off show, you pointed out to me, hey, man, make sure you watch Real Madrid Sevilla in Liga F, where Real Madrid is apparently just playing, hey, we shoot from wherever we want on the field at any point, and we might make it.
Yeah, I mean, they were blasting from everywhere, and every goal in the Sevilla match was better than the last. It was just like, upping the stakes. The Senior Bruin one, the third one was insane. And yeah, I looked it up real quick. You're absolutely right about the Chelsea-Real Madrid matchup. It was 2-0 Chelsea. Alba Redondo cuts it to 2-1 right before halftime. Mayra Ramirez puts them up 3-1 in the 53rd. Linda Caicedo pulls one back in the 84th.
There we go.
to make it 3-2. That could be a huge goal. We'll see. A lot to track. I'm going to be really excited. Matchday 6 is going to be wild, but these Matchday 5 matchups, real stakes, even though the quarterfinal teams have, for the most part, been kind of sewn up. I think there's going to be a lot to look out for.
Absolutely, man. I mean, I'm sold. I'm even more excited for these matches than I was heading into this program, which, I feel like that's a little mini commercial for the show. So hopefully you guys are as well. But yeah, just to let everybody know, I'm floating around on Blue Sky. We're floating around on Twitter. These matches are happening on Wednesday, the middle of the day or the middle of the morning. So I'm in full no spoilers alert. So I won't be looking at social media and then I'm going in blind after working hours and watching these, but it'll be prime Wednesday evening viewing for your boy.
Good to know. All right, quick programming reminder. Part 2 coming up. We're going to look at all 4 Thursday matchups. That'll be a separate episode, so look out for that in your feeds. End of this week, we'll be back with a Matchday 5 recap / Matchday 6 preview. And in the coming weeks, we're going to drop our best 11s for 2024. We're going to look at the list from ESPN and The Guardian. Give them the business if needed. I think that was a couple things that, raise an eyebrow with your boy. And I'm going to have to, I don't know. I'll shake a fist or two on that episode.
Let's go.
February 7th. This is a big one. After the UEFA Women's Champions League quarterfinals draw, your boys are going to be live. Once we've got all of our matchups, we can get pumped up. As soon as that wraps, hop over Into the channel, and we will be breaking down all 4 matchups, probably losing our minds live. I don't know, a good amount of profanity. It might be a little early on the East Coast, but it's a Friday. Maybe some beers might be cracked. Social conventions be damned. It's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you're subscribed and locked in. All right, man. Champions League Wednesday. Very excited. Anything else you want to hit before we get out of here?
I think we covered every possible angle from all matches on Wednesday. I'm ready.
Love it. All right, man. I think we did it. This is another episode of Into the Channel. Sincere. Thank you for watching, listening, following, liking, subscribing, just plain hanging out with your boys. And remember to like if you liked, subscribe or follow Into the Channel, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to watch or listen. Leave us a review over your favorite podcast app. Links to all of our socials, including Blue Sky. We might have to add Blue Sky in the show notes of this episode. And a big thank you to my co-host as well, Mr. Grant Angle, for hitting the stretch run, being ready to go. You already know what time it is. I appreciate you, bro.
Likewise, buddy. 2 matches left in the group stage. I feel like we are in top form right now. We're ready to go, finish this thing out strong. We appreciate all you guys for rocking with us, always dropping knowledge in the comments. Thank you very much, and we will see you next time.